When they say the gays are after your kids, no, we're not. Of course they are.
Of course they are.
Because they can't have their own. You will get more respect for George Floyd than Jesus Christ. I find it heartbreaking that you can mock Jesus in the open.
Andrew Tate and Michael Franzese, they sit down and have a fascinating conversation about politics, religion, and also are men cowards? So we're gonna react to the best 7 clips from this interview.
You're removing the masculine capability to just protect what it cares about. I think one of the largest smear campaigns against me is I get called hateful all the time. The BBC who hate me, the BBC, they're the propaganda arm of the British government, and the British members of parliament stand around in parliament. It's the only time I watch those clowns. They sit around talking about me. Andrew Tate's the worst thing that ever happened to this country. Not the stabbing, not the drugs, not the open borders. No, Andrew Tate said go to the gym. He's worth a 2-hour conversation. Only time I've watched them clowns in a long time. So the BBC is after me, right? And they say, Andrew, there's hateful ideologies. There's no such thing as a hateful ideology if you love something. You're not hateful if you say, I love America and I don't want those people to come here. You hate immigrants. No, I love America. There's no light without dark. There's no equal and opposite forces. If you love anything on the planet, you'll be called hateful against something else. The only people who aren't hateful are people who don't love anything and don't stand up for anything. The people who are just empty vessels waiting for the slave mine programming to convince them to be mad at us. If you love anything, you're a hateful person against something else. They'll call you hateful because they'll weaponize it and they'll try and take away the love aspect. I don't hate anybody or anything. I think it was with Piers when I said that my girlfriend doesn't work. It's like, why don't you want her to work? I said she could work if she wants, but she doesn't have to. Why? Because I'm rich. You're a misogynist. How does it make me a misogynist? I'm a misogynist. She's in Chanel and get a facial. I love her and I take care of her. But that's it. No, I hate women now. This is how they spin the narrative. It's insane.
I'm going to tell you what's going on. There is a thought process out there now that if you're telling a man to be a man, and we can talk about the qualities of manhood, that it's demeaning to women.
Yeah.
And I said, no. If you're telling a man to be a man and teaching him how, that's a benefit to women.
Absolutely.
And they don't get it. People don't get it. It's like you're taking a woman's rights away by being her man.
Yeah.
You know, look, I'm married 39 years, yesterday actually, 39 years.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And my wife could work if she wants to. Do I want her to? No, I don't want her to work. She doesn't have to work. I don't want her to work. But if she wanted to and she's real, okay, you can work. You know, she does all my video work, so she works for me. You know,
Two legends giving
I love what he said. It means
wisdom.
I love what he says about what it means to be a man. And it's not that you don't want women to work. It's that they don't have to because you're being successful.
We slave our lives away for you women. So you don't have to do what we have to do. There is a pressure on me as a man to provide that I never want my woman to feel. Ever.
Because they're
Linda,
different.
I don't want you to ever feel that you have to be the breadwinner for our family. That is not something that I believe women should have to carry.
Women will secretly resent you for it.
Yes, and I've been there. When I first got married, a year after I got married, I was a bum, and I've seen what it is like when the woman feels that responsibility, and that's not okay. So what Andrew Tate is even saying is if his woman wants to work, go ahead. If she wants to be a photographer, go for it. But she doesn't have to. There's a difference between having to work and doing what you want to do.
Let's see the response that he has.
But I love what Michael Franzese said, that we need to start bringing back what it is to be a man. Because that is so messed up.
Traditional
right now.
masculine values.
So messed up.
I don't want anybody else telling her what to do. That's just how I feel.
100%.
My
He
wife.
doesn't want anybody else.
I don't want another man or anybody else telling her what to do.
Facts.
Okay, is that a misogynist?
No.
Most people would say yes. But why?
There's a large proportion of the population who would try and say you're a bad person.
Yeah, why?
And they do this because they're pitting us against each other. That's why they're trying to attack masculinity to the point where they will say, if you're remotely masculine, you are harming and hurting women, which of course is false. But they try and keep the genders divided. That's what they want to do, because genders being united, when you're two different parts of a perfect whole, that's the basis of society in the first place.
Nuclear
We can talk
family.
about government, we can talk about all these things, but it starts with a man loving a woman, having a child. And then they decide to buy a house. If they can buy a house, as opposed to what's currently happening because they can't afford any of them, if they can buy a house, they're now interested in the schools, they're interested in the roads, they're interested in the town. They'll go to the local county fair. The town can be extrapolated out to the state, to the city, to the government, et cetera. It starts with that. They've broken us at the nucleus of the cell. Men and women no longer get along because we have completely different ideas. And you can blame either gender, but truthfully, it's a race to the bottom for both genders, I think. Gender dynamics are now so fundamentally broken in Western societies that how can you build a society on the top of it? How can you build a society on the top of women who don't want to listen to their man ever? Men who don't want to marry a woman because she's either going to financially wreck him or he's not going to feel like the king of his own household, which is what a man wants. Why would you marry a woman who says, I'm not going to listen to you? Well, then why am I marrying you?
Women, if you are out there and you actually want to get married, if you believe you don't need a man and that you are so independent and that you're this boss babe, do you have any idea how unattractive you're going to be to a man? Men want to be needed. They want to be protectors of you. They want to be valued by you as that. If you don't want that, you're going to be single.
Men want to lead the house.
I am the leader in my house.
Yeah, men want to lead the house. And women, if that offends you, then you need to rethink your life. Because men find their value off their leadership capabilities. They do not find their value off of a spouse. They don't find their value off of kids necessarily as the cornerstone. They want to know that they're protecting a family unit.
That we're respected.
That we're cherished for our role. It doesn't make you subservient to us, but it also makes that you have to listen. And we have to listen to you. But at the end of the day, I'm making the decision as the man in the house. Not because you can't make decisions, but because when it hits the road or when these conversations have to happen, somebody breaks into my house. I'm making the decision for my family to protect you.
Yeah, if you want to fight the intruder, I'm going to throw you in the closet.
To protect you, guys.
No,
wait, ladies, it's to protect you. It's not to push you down. You have to think about it that way. Because when you think about it from toxic masculinity, over attractive femininity, or all these buzzwords that are thrown out into society, that means nothing. It means nothing. If a man has a way of providing and protecting for a stable household, that woman will feel safe, protected, and she can do whatever she wants within that nuclear family structure. If you have kids and a legacy that you can build upon, that's exactly what Michael is talking about. Andrew's talking about that. Yes, Andrew has had some mishaps in the past. So has Michael. He was a former mafia boss. If you don't want to have forgiveness towards these kind of men that have had, pretty great past, to be honest with you, you have to think about it.
We need women and women need men.
Yeah.
And value each other for what you bring.
Oh, you want a man to be a man.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's not demeaning to you. It's not saying that he's better than you. He's a man. He's different. He has a different role in life.
Absolutely.
And people can't accept it. That's misogyny. That's being misogynistic to certain people.
Oh, completely.
I don't have to rely on a man. Well, why not? What's wrong with that?
It's so interesting because I have sons and daughters, and they're being raised in such different ways. But my son is having a hard life because life's hard, right?
Right.
Facts.
I walk past him. He's 3. I push him over. He gets up. It's like, that's life, son. One day you're going to go to jail. Get up. But
One day
my daughters are princesses.
Right.
Like my daughter's 3 and she's saying, I only want to fly private and all this garbage, right? At 3. She's a nightmare. But I'm doing this on purpose because when he gets to a certain age, I'm going to say, look, the gravy train ends the second you get a man. So you've lived a very nice life. You have all the things you want, and you have your bags and your cars and your private jets, and you're very, very rich. But the second you get a boyfriend, the gravy train ends. If he can't pay for what you're used to, that's your decision. And you can't go back. You have to make a good call now because I'll take care of you until another man comes. Then it's his job. You better make sure he has my kind of budgets because you're used to a certain.
Now, the budget of a man is not the only thing because you could marry a billionaire and be abused in every single way.
Yes, but if you grow up in that lifestyle and you don't have somebody that has the same financial backing as him,
so
that's a bit.
Find a man that can take care of you. But I'm saying that should not be, I mean, he might talk about that more, but that is not the only thing to look for because if he's going to slap you every single day.
Yeah, but lifestyle.
But you wake up every day, boom, he's going to slap you across the head.
David. Lifestyle is important, especially to a young female.
I said lifestyle is important, but what I'm saying is find somebody that is not only based on the money because there's a lot of gold diggers. If you only have that mentality of make sure that the man can provide for you, then you can be the gold digger and you're going to get pushed around or whatever you want, whatever the guy wants, because he can just say, hey, leave.
I don't think what Tate is saying is the only thing that you should look for is somebody that has the same amount of money.
It was a caveat.
It was a caveat. Caveats are important, but if a man's successful, he's going to be able to take care
of
it.
Yeah, it's true that I'm going to raise my daughters and sons very differently. I have a daughter. again, in a week, I'm going to find out if my next child's a son or a
Yeah,
daughter.
we'll see.
Very excited. But if I have a son, I'm going to raise him so different. My son's going to know that the world's tough.
Yeah.
The world is very tough. I don't know if I'm going to push him over at 3. But the world is very tough. My daughter is my princess.
If you do that, please let me know because I would love to see it.
My daughter is my world. She is going to see all the beautiful things. She's going to see the world as a place of dreams, of all this stuff.
Imagination.
Yeah, imagination. But my son is going to learn hard work from day one.
Probably one of the largest problems with society today is that a lot of men have become cowards. They're afraid to talk. Even us, we talk, it gets us in trouble, right? But every time they mess with us, they damage themselves. One of the overviews, one of the contingents to holding power is that people have to trust you with it. Power, the only guarantee of power, someone said this to me once, and I keep saying I love it. The only guarantee of power is that one day you're going to lose it.
Yep.
If you have power over a woman and she listens to every word you say, one day she'll stop listening. Might be the same in the mob world. You control the streets. One day, you just don't control that street anymore. When you have power, people get power and they never think of this. The only guarantee of it is that one day it's going to be gone. And you have to prepare for that. And one of the quickest ways to lose power is when you can't be trusted with power. We give our governments and these institutions power because we trust them, right? The whole world is based on the trust of these systems. As soon as people stop trusting them, they can't do their job anymore. So every single time they do some two-tier policing garbage, every single time they attack somebody purely for their views, like Trump, like you, like I, we're like a poison frog, and they eat us. And they teach us a lesson, and we do some jail, that's fine. But they get a little bit of poison in them because they instill distrust amongst the populace. It gets to a point where once nobody trusts them at all, then it's over, right? Nobody's going to sit there and go, oh, we'll go to court, or I'll wait for court. Once everyone knows it's a scam, then it's done. So it's kind of like, how do you beat the Matrix? How do you defeat the Matrix? Well, I'm sitting here running my mouth. They put me in jail for it. I'm now currently on bail and have been told not to run my mouth. And I continue to run my mouth, and they'll probably put me in jail. And maybe I'm martyring myself, but you have to, it does damage them.
Do you have a gag order on you?
I don't have a gag order. I have no official gag order. However, my legal counsel was like, look, you should be careful what you say about Romanian jail and Romania, and you're inside Romania, and you should be very respectful. And I was like, oh, I am going to be respectful, but I'm also going to tell the truth.
The problem, again, I love Andrew Tate's message about this. The problem is not everybody's ever going to believe it's a scam, that we're being controlled.
No, because
by people.
people's lifestyles are completely directly correlated, especially in the welfare state. It's directly correlated to their ability to take money from the government. So why would I be honest about my feelings towards the government if I can take money from
we
it?
can do is fight back against this crap.
Yeah, I think it's not Democrat, it's not Republican. It's just the idea of freedom, understanding your rights that you have.
Which
as
usually has to
Americans.
do with Democrat versus Republican.
No, I don't know if it's that anymore, though, because I don't even know if it's that, because both sides are really, really corrupt. It's more about so you guys had 4 years of Trump, you had 4 years of Biden. You choose. Which president did more for the country in a matter of time? You guys can choose for yourselves.
Who's going to hurt the establishment?
Who's going to drain the swamp? Who's going to care about your rights on the gas pump, about having more discounts at the grocery store for your eggs and your milk and all of the things that you have on your day-to-day life? Yeah, it's all smoke and mirrors. Politics is all smoke and mirrors. But when Andrew's talking about trust is only established over a period of time. But when you put your trust in the dollar or in some currency that's not backed by anything, you become a slave to the establishment.
Just don't trust the government, but there's always going to be those idiots that do.
Yeah.
You will get more respect for George Floyd than Jesus Christ. I find it heartbreaking that you can mock Jesus in the open.
Yeah.
I find it, free speech, blah, blah, blah. There's free speech, but no, I don't think you should be walking around insulting the God of the country you live in. You can't do that in an Islamic country. You can't do that in nearly any religion's country. Only in these first world Christian nations are they going to allow their prophets to be mocked and say, no, oops. They'll put up satanic statues in churches.
Yeah,
they did this.
fine.
And the guy, a Christian, destroyed the statue. He got charged.
Yeah.
He got charged.
Andrew, it's happening every day in
Wow.
America. You could tell you, God forbid you say something against a transsexual.
Oh, yeah. That's the real religion.
Absolutely. But talk about Jesus, talk about God, nobody cares.
That's right. The real religion is LGBT. You can't destroy that flag.
Can't destroy it.
You can't talk bad about that.
That's become a religion. You're right.
It is.
They make it sacred.
Absolutely. You have your priests and priestesses. You have your religious doctrine, and they're trying to convince everybody to join.
Honestly, that breaks my heart. Because it's super true. I don't care if you're religious or not. The very fact that religious freedoms is under attack in our country. We're unapologetically Christian on this channel. We really are. We love God with all of our hearts. And to see our religion and what we believe in being under such massive attacks by people that don't care and they want to put a satanic symbol or statue in a church. That's insane. I just got back from Dubai. In those countries, they would never allow that, especially in the Islamic faith. They would never allow their prophet or any of their oligarchs in that religion to be mocked like that. It's time for Christians. It's time for people that have religious faith to stand up for what's right. It's just like, it's crazy.
The main thing is the government should not be the ones enforcing it, because what's the beauty of Christianity? Free will. So if someone wants to mock Christianity,
but we have no backbone.
No, what I mean is they have the free will to do so, because I don't want the government controlling what people can say.
Yes, but
even if it's against my God. But the difference is that Christians are not standing up and saying this is absolute BS.
Why do you think that is?
Because we have been the ones shamed for our culture. If you look at any movie or TV show, whenever it has to do with shaming any religion, look at The Last of Us, the TV show, right? Whenever there's a maniac that is of a religious organization, now it has to be someone Christian outside of like ISIS, when we're going in the Middle East.
We're the most shamed religion
we
on the
are
planet.
shamed, and if you are a Christian, people are like, you're a Christian? Oh my gosh. But if you're a Muslim, wow. We have to protect it, we have to protect that which you have. And so it's all backwards. So the problem is not the government making it so people can't speak against it, because you should, as an American, and as a free country-ish, have the ability to speak against what you don't believe in, even if it's against what we believe in. But Christians need to be the ones to rise up and speak truth and say, we will not be mocked. This is what we believe unapologetically, and you can go and take whatever you want to say about us, go ahead. But we will defend what we believe to the death. And that's the problem, is that Christians are not defending what we believe anymore.
Yeah, because we're too scared. We're too, as PBD would say, we bent the knee to society, and we've allowed society to even creep into churches.
Yeah,
we've allowed it to creep into Christian culture.
Christians don't even speak publicly to their Christians anymore.
No.
I know so many Christians that will never, ever mention that they are a Christian. They have lifelong friends that they will never even have a conversation with.
So what makes you Christian then?
What makes you a Christian? Your belief in Jesus Christ.
But if you don't speak that out, that's what I'm saying, is like, what's the outer workings of your faith?
Faith without works is dead.
Correct.
You have to work out your salvation and truly...
With fear and trembling.
You need to speak it forth. And so I do believe, I don't want the government controlling what can be spoken. I don't want them to say, you can't speak against Christianity or you're going to be put in prison, because even then, that is making it so the government controls what can be said. It's about the people rising up. That's the most important thing.
Free speech. Me believing in, if you come against my religion and my church, then I have a right to speak out against it.
Exactly.
Everybody thinks this is controversial, and I'm sure this is going to get me canceled for the 58th time, but luckily I do not care anymore, so do it. When they say the gays are after your kids, no, we're not. Of course they are.
Of course they are.
Because they can't have their own.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. So how do they have a future of a movement unless they get your kids?
Oh.
They need you as a straight man to dedicate his life to a woman, to have children, to raise those children, to pay for those children, to protect those children, to provide for those children, to be responsible for those children all those years, so that they can come along and psyop those kids into ending your genetic bloodline and doing whatever they want. They want your kids. Of course they do. There's no other kids to take.
My children will believe what I want them to believe. And that's why I'm strongly considering homeschooling. We were homeschooled growing up. So therefore, we believe what our parents believed growing up. Dude, I'm not putting my kids in public school. I'm not allowing the government to have control over what my children's learn.
It's become a religion. Gosh, dude. It's become its own religion, where it's the minority is controlling the majority, culturally, socioeconomically, and all these. I mean, they have an entire month dedicated to their cause. It's absolutely insanity. And a lot of people that I know that live that lifestyle, they don't even want any of what he's talking about. They don't want to indoctrinate kids. They don't want to come into the school system and tell kids what pronouns they are and what gender they believe they are.
Are you talking about people that used to live that lifestyle?
No, people that I know that are currently in that lifestyle.
Yeah.
That they don't want that. They don't want kids to be indoctrinated at 5 years old on what sex they are.
It's kind of like Blair
or what
White.
pronouns they are, or what they should believe about their sexuality. Guys, this is not even religion. This is simply common sense. If you don't believe in common sense, then tune off our channel. We believe in common sense. We believe that every single American should be taught by their parents those very personal details of their life. Sexuality should not be taught in school.
No.
It shouldn't.
No.
It shouldn't be taught in school.
No.
You should not be taught in school at 5 years old what pronouns you are and what sexuality, what gender you want to be. Period.
They want your kids. And the reason they try and get the kids is because their ideology is such bullshit that they have to go after the young, impressionable minds. They can't go after a 30-year-old who's lived in a normal world.
Yeah, they
have
cannot.
to go
I'm
after
30.
a child.
Yeah.
And you're not allowed to, once again, tell your children to not adhere to these things.
No,
you're not allowed. That's
you get in trouble.
That's a crime. They're going to send your kid to a school, which is effectively an indoctrination camp.
Indoctrination
And they're going to indoctrinate them with this garbage. I saw a video on YouTube, and it was a dad trying to argue with his 2 daughters about LGBT rights or something, what they learned in school, and he was trying to fix them. And I guess he thought the video was a wholesome video because he was fixing their minds and, look, this is what we have to do. Da-da. It pissed me off, and it wasn't even me. I was like, they've poisoned your kids' brains. You're sitting here trying to fix it. Why fix it? Why is this happening? I'd take them out of school the same day. It's insane that you're even having to sit there and do this.
I'd be in jail already.
100%. It's crazy.
I would be in jail already too.
No,
my children will believe what I want them to be raised in.
Why would I have my kids come home from school and tell me that they believe all this new stuff?
No. They're gone. I will figure out a way.
That's
to
insane.
Have someone. I will hire someone that I trust, very close to me.
Seems like
time.
homeschooling in America is a big thing, ladies and gentlemen. It might become
Oh
more
my
apparent over the next
gosh,
5
dude.
to 10 years. Guys, please, for the love of God, think critically about where you're sending your kids to school.
Don't let them be raised by the
Don't
government.
let them be raised, not by even the government, by the local establishment that is being funded by the Soroses of the world, by all these local legislative bodies that want to indoctrinate your kids to believe a certain way. Think critically and have common sense about where you're placing your children in your schools.
Well, let me ask you a question. When you say you don't prescribe to that mentality, do you not believe Jesus is coming back, or you just don't believe in that mentality you just described?
Religion.
I do believe, let's say I believe Jesus was coming back. That wouldn't mean I don't take action. That wouldn't mean I just wait.
That's not the Muslim
agree with
faith.
that.
I don't agree with it's going to be fine. It'll be fixed by Jesus. I'll give you a quick example. My father was a world-class chess player. He was a professional chess player. I used to go with him to chess tournaments. We were at a chess tournament. I think we were in Chicago, Illinois. And I must have been about 8 years old. And Azerbaijani grandmaster turned up, and he looked visibly shaken. And he's from Azerbaijan, so he was not used to driving on ice. And he came in, and he looked visibly shaken, and my dad and his friends were standing there, all the chess players, and he said, "What's the matter?" And he goes, "God just saved my life. God just saved my life." And we were like, "What happened?" He said, "I was driving on the bridge, and I lost control on the ice, and I was heading towards the edge of the bridge, and the car wasn't responding, and I just closed my eyes, and I prayed to God, and I opened my eyes, and I stopped just before I went off the bridge. I broke the barrier. I nearly went off the bridge. God saved my life. God saved my life." And I remember my dad said, "Maybe God saved your life, but I wouldn't have taken my hand off the wheel." And that was his mentality. And I remember him saying, I was only 8. I remember him saying that and walking off. And I talked to him about it on the way home. What does that mean? He goes, "Well, God has a plan. That's great, but I'm going to do my very best while I'm here. And God will allow me to either succeed or he won't." So we can sit here and say, Jesus is coming back to save Christian nations. Yeah, perhaps. Perhaps you should stop letting yourself get punked all day and stand up and do something. Perhaps. I don't know.
It's so funny because that's actually a biblical belief that faith without works is dead. So we have faith in Jesus Christ, that I have faith that I'm going to be a millionaire someday, right? Like a multimillionaire. But I'm not going to just say, "God, make it happen." I'm going to do my best to make it happen and follow what he wants me to do.
Yeah.
But it's a balance, right? It's not, I'm not going to just surrender and lay in my bed all day and do nothing.
Yeah, man.
And that's the problem with a lot of Christians nowadays is they expect God to make everything happen, and that's not the case.
Yeah, faith without works is dead. If you are a believer or non-believer and you expect everything just to work out for you because you have faith, you're going to be sorely mistaken.
Correct.
Because God, he designed us to work. He designed us to go out and make things happen and to be men of change, women of change. And so what he's talking about is very true. When God comes back, I disagree that he will come back for Christian nations. Jesus will come back for the entire world, judge the living and the dead.
That's
but
true.
when it does happen, that day does happen, then I don't care how good of a person you are and how many good works you did. It's up to you whether you surrender your life or not.
Yeah,
And so
in the
for me, I
Bible-
surrendered my life, but I did not surrender my life just to surrender and do nothing. I surrendered it unto something. I surrendered it so that I can go out and actually do the works that God has created me to do and actually change the world. Getting up out of my bed and actually partnering with my local community and friends to make a life of myself.
Yeah, and it says in the Bible that a man that does not work does not eat.
Correct.
So there you go.
Maybe I'm wrong, but it truly breaks my heart when these things are happening.
Well, no, you're right, because faith without works is
Thank
is
you.
meaningless. But let me ask you, very interesting, because you said you believe Jesus is coming back,
Yeah.
and yet you're
So
Islam.
does Islam.
They do.
Yeah.
So they believe that Jesus is the Son of God.
Yeah.
No.
No,
No, they
believe
do
he was a
not.
messenger.
Hold on.
And
Let's
I remember
rewind
him
that.
saying,
But let me ask you, very interesting, because you said you believe Jesus is coming back,
Yeah.
and yet you're
so
Islam.
does Islam.
No, they don't.
They do.
No, they don't.
So they believe that Jesus is the Son of God.
Yeah.
No.
They believe he was a messenger.
Messenger.
They don't believe he's the Son of God.
I have to be, I don't want to say anything incorrect, because if I say anything incorrect, they'll
Andrew Tate is 100% going to become a Christian.
No, it's funny. Tristan's a Christian. His best mates in his house are Christians.
He's gonna be a
And they talk
Christian.
to him about it all the time. Andrew Tate only is Muslim because he's been to Muslim countries and he's been in
Because they respect God.
They respect God and they have a culture that respects God. So he's been around that environment.
But he
And I'm
doesn't
not going
know-
to talk bad about Muslims. I'm
Yeah,
just
no,
saying
love you guys.
we love our Muslim community on YouTube and everything else, but we are unapologetically Christian. He's going to come back.
100%. He doesn't even fully know what Christians believe and Muslims believe.
Well, he's very tactful in the way that he tried to answer this.
Muslim world jumps all over me.
Yep.
But they do believe he was a messenger. They believe he was a prophet.
That's true.
Along with Muhammad and along with Moses. They believe in a lot of the same things. I guess the very simplistic way to understand or explain Islam is they believe in the Bible. They believe in all of it. They just
No,
wrote
they
one
don't.
more
They
book
believe in the Old
afterwards
Testament.
by one more messenger.
So hold on.
They don't believe in the New Testament.
Let's
They
let
believe
him.
in the Old Testament.
Let's let him say this fully because I want people to be able to hear what he said.
I guess the very simplistic way to understand or explain Islam is they believe in the Bible. They believe in all of it. They just wrote one more book afterwards by one more messenger, Muhammad, peace be upon him. And in his book, he said, Christians are right. Everything's right. But there's also this part. That's the very simplistic view of it. I don't think the problem is Islam versus Christian. I don't think the problem is God versus God. I think the main problem with the world today is godless versus believers. I think if you have somebody who believes in God, all the religions have a basic tenet of look after your family, do the right thing, God is watching, there is sin, there are some things more important than money. You know, like in Islam, we don't have usury, for example. There's no interest allowed. It says in the Quran, if you have a society based on interest and based on debt and based on banking, you're going to be controlled by evil. It says in the Quran in the 14th century. So like there's certain, you have spiritual beliefs. And if you don't have any spiritual belief, you're only going to worship money. There's nowhere else to go, right? And if you worship money, you're corruptible. So I think that people who are spiritual as opposed to people who are atheistic is the main problem, because the atheists aren't even atheistic. They worship LGBT, money, government, feminism, abortion, whatever insanity. They have their religions. They're just evil. So there's no such thing as an atheist anyway. They just have completely insane religions. Right. I believe that people who believe in God versus people who don't is the main problem. I think a lot of the confusion, though, about Islam is a lot of the problems in the Western world are from migrants, perhaps, or from people who are from Islamic countries. So people have a problem with Islam, which I can understand. But I would argue that the problem there is not Islam. The problem is third worlders versus first worlders. Some of the first world Islamic nations are the most beautiful places on earth. Bahrain, Kuwait, Dubai, United Arab Emirates. These are gorgeous places with no crime. And you're going to see, with no tax, And the tallest buildings in the world, perfect roads, 0% tax rate.
No tax.
Yeah, no tax. Explain that, government. And they built these beautiful places and everyone's safe and society functions and everything's gorgeous. Obviously, you have third world Islamic nations with problems. You can go to Africa and find third world Christian nations.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you will see how they treat women. People say, oh, Islam's bad to women. We'll see how they treat women in Africa and Christian nations.
You're right.
It's third world versus first world.
Let me ask you, is there a reason you were drawn more to Islam than Christianity?
I read both books. I don't know if it was my time inside of in Islamic countries. I felt God. I felt it. I don't know how else to say it. I felt it. I felt it more when I went to the mosque. I felt it when I was in an Islamic country. I felt it. And I've analyzed this about myself heavily because I believe that feedback is how you get good at anything. People think practice makes perfect. That's a lie. Feedback makes perfect. And I was actually discussing this with somebody who was talking about my podcast. He says, oh, your podcasts are very good. And how do you talk so well? And I said, well, he goes, you must be practicing. I said, I don't practice because I'm 37, you're 42. You've been practicing longer than me. So how come I can speak better than you can? Because I watch myself back and I analyze, I learn new words. Feedback. Feedback is how you get good at something. So I try to analyze my own state of mind all the time. And I try and work out, why did I feel like an Islamic society was closer to God than a Christian society? Is it because of what's in the book? Or is it because of the society I'm in? Is it because of the society? Maybe, and I'm just being perfectly brutally honest here. Maybe when I look at religion, I say, well, if a religion, what's the primary goal of a religion? Is it to save souls? Yes. But also, wouldn't you argue the primary goal of religion is to preserve a society to a degree? If Islam can preserve Islamic societies, if women are women, if men are men, if even in war zones, even you can look at the worst countries on the planet today, they're Islamic countries, if they're still all praying, they're still all with their wives, they're still all feeding. God is the only thing they've got. They don't have anything else. They're not afraid to die for what they believe in. God is all they've got left. You know what's interesting? Someone said to me, they said, imagine when you look at movies and you see a post-apocalyptic Christian country, like, something's happened. You see riots, you see looting, you see all these things, right? He goes, there's a bunch of Islamic countries right now that are already post-apocalyptic. You don't see any of that because they believe in God. Maybe it's that. Maybe it's just I felt.
So this is a lot, and I've seen this before, so Michael Franzese is going to get to something powerful in a second. I still struggle with the one thing that Andrew keeps coming back to, that he is relying on the society to determine whether that God is real or not. But he said that he'd rather somebody believe in God as opposed to being atheistic. I agree. But his whole worldview is very universalist, that as long as you believe in a God or God, you're fine. And that's the one difference between Christianity and every other belief.
I think that's what Michael talks about,
is what
right?
Michael's going to get into, so I'm not going to talk about that. But Andrew Tate doesn't understand the Bible at all.
Yeah.
So, again, this is a lot.
You can tell by the way he talks.
The climax of this is about to come. Enjoy it.
It holds society together. And I'm not going to sit here and argue that I'm right. I'm not going to argue against Christianity at all. I respect Christianity. I was raised Christian. I have absolute respect for Christians. My brother's a Christian. I'm not going to sit and say that I'm right and anyone else is wrong. I'm just saying perhaps it's as simple as if I send my children to school in Dubai, 99% of the problems we've talked about, I don't have to worry about anymore. Maybe it's that simple. It's like, okay, boom.
Let me tell you the one thing that separates Christianity that's scary to everything else on earth, in my view. If Christians are right, and the only way to get to heaven, which I know you believe in, we believe in heaven and hell, is through Jesus Christ, then every other religion could be good. There's no question about that. But the separation is that if you don't believe Jesus is the Son of God,
that's right,
then you don't get to heaven.
That's right.
And that's scary.
Yeah.
And when I was in the hole, I kind of challenged God at that moment, because my wife was Christian, my mother-in-law Christian, they were telling me, and I didn't have time for that. But now I'm getting in there, and you know what I developed, Andrew? I developed a healthy fear of hell. Yeah. You're in the hole. If this is it, if this is the rest of eternity like this, only a million times worse, and even if it isn't worse, this is it. Yeah. I'm here alone by myself, separated from everyone I love, and this is it. Eternal nothing. I said, I need to find out what's true. And at that point in time, I had my Bible in there. I had my wife send me every book you can imagine. Christian faith, Hindu, Muslim, everything. I was reading everything. And for me, the separation was, okay, all of this makes sense. But if Jesus is the only way to heaven and I reject that, then no matter how good I am, no matter what else I do, I'm going nowhere. This is going to be eternity for me. Right. So this is the separation. And I think people have to make that choice.
It's a super interesting conversation, and I can't wait. I'd love for us to do a podcast in a couple more years when I've read them both a couple more times. And I know I have more to learn. This is on one subject where I'm 100% a student.
But remember this, the only thing I'm going to tell you, I'm sure your brother told you this.
Oh, yeah, every day. Every day.
Everything could be right. 100%. Million good people. The countries are good, everything. And you know what? You know, you're more safe in a country. The United States is not safe anymore. Yeah. There's a lot of Christians there, a lot of people that profess to be Christians but really aren't Christians. Because you can say you're a Christian, but if you're living in a pattern of sin, if you're not living like a Christian, you're not a Christian. Doesn't matter. But that's the one separation.
I understand.
And that's important, and that's something you really need to figure out and think about. Because if he is the only way to heaven, no matter how good you are, no matter how great the country is, doesn't matter.
That moved me. I love hearing someone of that caliber really talk to Andrew about the penalties or the eternal consequences of not believing in Jesus. You know, yeah, you can believe in all of these religions, you can have faith in a God, but I love what Reinhard Bonnke says, and I want you guys to really think about what I'm about to say. He said, every other religion, men set the table for their gods, but in the Christian religion, God sets the table for his people. That is the one different religion. That's the one difference in religion from every other religion to the Christian religion. Jesus is the only way, which is what he's talking about. And it pinpricked me in the heart because I want to see Andrew Tate saved. His brother obviously is a strong Christian now that he's kind of rededicated his life. But Andrew, you can tell the wheels are turning. There's like a psychological nuance going on where he's trying to figure out what's real, what's not real. And I'm excited to see the journey that Andrew goes on in these next couple of years and when they kind of revisit the conversation.
Yeah.
It's a lot to chew on, right?
It's a lot to chew on because Christianity is the only religion that we have access to God. Yeah. Every other religion, it's all about how you can serve. It's all about service. Now, in Christianity, we need to serve our Creator, but it's out of a place of love and out of in relationship. I have seen miracles. I've seen people's ears open up. I've seen people's legs grown out. I've seen people that couldn't even walk, and supernaturally, I would pray for them. They would be healed, and then they ran circles around Target. I have been healed myself where I almost broke my ankle, couldn't even walk, and then the Lord told me to go into the front and just start praising Him, and I did that. All the swelling went away like that, and I was able to run. I have seen things that make it so I can never go back. But we are talking about eternity. One of my friends told me that they had a discussion with the atheist. And the atheist was just like, oh, it's BS. You know, there's going to be just darkness when you die. Yeah. And then the Christian looked at him and said, but what if you're wrong? If you're wrong, you lose out on everything. If I'm wrong, I lose out on nothing. If eternity is complete darkness as a believer, then I lost nothing because there's just darkness. But if you're an atheist and then you missed out on an opportunity to actually find Jesus and be saved, you are going to spend eternity in hell because you chose to believe in nothing. So I like what Andrew said about that. You need to believe in something. Now, obviously we believe Christianity is the way. That is the difference. Everything that Michael said, I 100% am on board with, because it's the one religion that you have to believe in somebody in order to be saved. It's the separating factor.
Yeah, guys, what do you guys think below? What is your religious beliefs? What do you think of this overall conversation that we've had? Obviously, this has been an amazing video packed full of content, but we're excited to go on this journey with you guys of understanding your faith, your values of masculinity, the current cultural climate that we're in. Comment below what you guys' thoughts are, and we will definitely see you on the next video.
Peace.
Peace.